All right, I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Township of Portland on April 22nd, 2020. And I'll start with roll call. Councillor Goida.
Present.
Councillor Spoulos.
Present.
Councillor Bailey.
Present.
Councillor Balmer. Oh, you're muted. You have to unmute and call you present again, Councillor Balmer. Let's give him a second to sort out his mute button. Can you get yourself unmuted there, Councillor Balmer? There you go. Oh, you had it. There you go.
Is it?
That's it.
Oh, I was the host. There we go. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Are you present?
I believe so.
Okay, I'll then ask for disclosure of pecuniary interests. Seeing none. So I just want to ask council if they're okay. We're going to change the order slightly as long as we have Director of Finance here and I forget the individual's name that was going to talk to this report, but we're going to go to the Finance Department and bring forward Report Finance 2020-016. Request for proposal, and it's on the municipal insurance coverage. There's an individual that maybe has some time constraints, so we'd like to maybe deal with that first, and then we would go to communications and deal with the county official plan amendment, just so we can get Megan. She doesn't have to wait around for that. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
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 I see some nods.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will hand it over to our Director of Finance, and she can give us a little synopsis of this this finance report, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Good afternoon, everyone. So just to give you a quick summary of the request for proposal finance report regarding the municipal insurance coverage and services proposal. So the township went through with a request for proposal process. We did an online bid through our Bidingo system on February 3rd, 2020. We advertised it on the township's website and our online bidding system, and we also provided the request for quote to the 4 public sector insurance markets in Ontario to make them aware of the proposal. We had Randy Bushy, our consultant, assist us with the process, and Randy's here should council have any questions about the results of the proposal and staff's recommendation, which is supported by Randy's recommendation as well.
Okay, thank you. And I'll ask Ms. White Fox if she can add Randy to the conference. There he is. Welcome, Randy. Okay, he's able to unmute himself. So we're going to go in the same order that we're going to do the roll call. So if there's any questions regarding this report, Councillor Goida.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. No, I don't really have any questions. I just more of a comment, I guess, is that it was kind of surprising and I guess alarming to see how the price could vary so much between the 2 different companies. So this new proposal will allow us for a savings of what we would have spent of $135,000. And so, I mean, I of course would support that. And I think that now at this particular time in the world that finding these kinds of savings are more important than ever. So I would definitely support this.
Okay.
Councillor Goida, I've been in the insurance industry for over 40 years. I'm an old man. And I was astounded by the price difference. However, I hasten to add that I don't think that's necessarily a criticism against Cowans, because when you're pricing insurance, you only know at the end of the year whether the price that you provided was a good price or a poor price, right? Because what the underwriters are trying to do is make sure that they are charging a premium commensurate with the risk. And they have an idea of what your risk is based on number of vehicles you've got, number of properties you've got, the kind of operations that you have. Your prior claims history is also an indicator of some measure of risk. And an underwriter has to put all of that into the blender and come up with a price. And only at the end of the term will they know whether the price that they have charged was a good price from their point of view or a poor price, obviously measured by whether the claims that you have fall below the price that they've charged or rise above. And if they're good underwriters, and all of these players are very experienced players, we're not dealing with anybody who either has inexperience in this marketplace or has inadequate capital to back up their promise for claims. Every one of these players is trying to make sure that every one of them will have some claims, some accounts where the claims will exceed the amount of premium that they've charged. That's to be expected. That's happened in the past with Pruslinch, for example. But the idea is that the claims of the many are paid for by the premiums, the claims of the few are paid for by the premiums of the many. Right. And at the end of the day, they look at their municipal book of business and hopefully they've taken in more money than they've paid out. But they don't know that until the time period has passed. So when I looked at the risk, I knew that Cowan's was up over last year, but most of the insurers have been. And you're probably seeing that on your own. As I indicated in the report, you're probably seeing that on your own insurance. I'm just renewing my car and my house and my cottage and my boat right now. And my premiums are up. Everybody's premiums are up. So when the premium from Marsh JLT came in not only lower, but significantly lower by a percentage, hugely lower than the Cowan price, I was suspicious of it, frankly. When I talked to both Mary and Glenn on this, their instruction was go through this thing with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that it's complete. Number one, we wanted to make sure that there were no coverages missing, and there are not. The second thing, we wanted to make sure that the information we had supplied was complete, because every underwriter predicates their pricing and their terms on the information we've supplied that reflect the risk. And so I've gone through everything very, very carefully to make sure, because in my 40 years, I've seldom seen pricing that is this variant. I would have expected them to be within, even if one was 20% below the other, I would have been checking it very, very carefully. But this is a significant price difference. However, I'm confident that the coverages are there, that the information we've supplied has been the same to all of the players, and that the insurers behind Marsh JLT, because remember, Marsh JLT or Cowan's are not the insurers. They're fronting the insurers. They're supplying a program. And each of them has several insurers behind them. And we've also done analysis there to make sure that these are solid insurers that are able to back up the promises that they've made to you. We believe they are. And both of these players are significant players who have been around the block. Marsh is the largest brokerage in the world. Cowan's has been in the municipal sector in Ontario longer than anybody else. So they both know what they're doing. I have confidence in recommending either company, and I have recommended both in other situations. But in this situation, the Marsh JLT proposal not only is cheaper in price, but in many ways it's broader in coverage.
Good.
Well, thank you for all your hard work in doing that. It definitely puts us in a much better position. So thank you.
Welcome.
Councillor Spoulos.
Yes, Randy, I'm as surprised as you are on the price. Like, it's 1/3 the cost. I went on the website, trying to find some other examples of this disparity, and I couldn't find any. I found that Minto switched users They went from what we're currently having to Cowan, and it was within
John, we're losing you.
thousands of dollars. I expect this to be the same. This is how much they dropped.
Councillor Spoulos, we lost half of your conversation.
Did I
After you
really?
mentioned, Councillor, after you mentioned the Township of Minto, it started to become a little bit broken up. You may have to disable your video when you chat. You're muted now, sir. Oh, there you go.
What's going on? I'm losing. You hear me now?
Yeah, maybe when councillors, when you're going to do your comments, especially the ones out more in the rural, just disable your video. We do love seeing all of your faces. However, it seems when you try to make your comments is when it becomes garbled. So just disable your video for your comments and then reinstate it if possible, because if we don't have video, then I'll be calling roll call every 10 minutes to make sure we have maintained quorum. So, okay, I'll give it back to you,
My
Councillor
video
Spoulos.
there, sorry.
Yep.
Okay, Randy, just a comment. Is there any chance that the company might back out of this deal?
We have conversed back and forth with them, because once we do the analysis, and maybe I should just say that part of my role was to put together the information to help Mary publish the request for proposal. And then when the proposals came in, I wanted to analyze the price, the coverage, the policy wordings. Each proposal was 300+ pages, so there was a lot of analysis back and forth. Then we have been in contact frequently with Marsh JLT since then, because there are a series of post-analysis issues that we've got to deal with. So they don't know, of course, what the other quotation was, but they've had every opportunity to review their pricing to make sure there wasn't some obvious typo, that kind of thing in the pricing. And they've confirmed that the pricing is there and they're prepared to see it through for the year.
Okay, thank you very much.
Does that answer your question?
It does. It does. We'll see what they do next year.
That's always a concern. The advantage that you always have, though, is if we're not satisfied with what they do on renewal, and we've asked them to let us know well in advance, something like 90 days in advance, at least 60 days in advance, we still have the opportunity of going back out to market, because we've put all the information together. It's all current. We have the relevant data that we can go back to market if we need to do that. So that's important, I think, to always have in your back pocket, because it's a weapon as a customer, as a client, that you can use. We're all aware of somebody giving us a cheap price to engage us and then driving the price up afterward. We know what you have been paying historically. They don't necessarily know that. And if we need to, we can go back to the marketplace again. But it is a concern, but it's a concern with any insurer. Even if they had quoted, even if we were to go with Cowan's, we don't know what next year will bring. And frankly, neither do they.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bailey? And Councillor Bailey, just disable your video before you start if you have questions. Thank you.
Randy, thanks for all the work. I'm sure this took a long time to go through all the data, and I guess my one concern was I just wanted to make sure we were comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges with the other companies, because I was surprised too at the difference in the cost.
I think the question was to be sure that we're comparing apples with apples.
Correct.
Right. So, Councillor Bailey, yes, there are very diverse, a whole series of diverse coverages that make up your program. So you want to be able to insure yourself against slip and falls on municipal property. At the same time, you want to be able to insure yourself against automobile accidents. You've also got lots of heavy equipment, some of which runs on the road that's unlicensed heavy equipment. And you've got to be careful about damage to those units or damage that they cause. You've got concerns about environmental issues. You've got concerns about allegations of conflict of interest. There's a whole range of things that are part of the package that you've got. And so my responsibility was to analyze line by line to make sure that the coverages were similar. Because these 4 players in Ontario are competing together every single day of the year, their coverages have been designed and tailored to be fairly closely aligned. Each of them, though, has some differences. Sometimes there are coverages that they cannot offer because their underwriters won't support it. For example, your policy with Cowan's covered physical assets, buildings, contents, unlicensed equipment, against flood and quake only for contents and mobile equipment, not for buildings. The Marsh JLT program gives you that coverage, flood and earthquake, for buildings and contents and mobile equipment. Now, in some ways, that may be because of what their underwriters demanded. I don't think so in that case. It might be something that they've done to try and be a slight enhancement to show a value add. And there are scores of those when you compare the 2 programs. Sometimes you can tell by taking a look at the coverage summary. Each one gave us like about a 5 or 6 page chart that's a coverage summary, and we go through item by item. Some of them are only really obvious when we read through the policy wordings. For example, in your Cowan coverage for liability, you had coverage for claims for bodily injury, property damage, etc. However, on the Marsh JLT program, they also provide coverage for punitive and exemplary damages. That means if a court says that you handled something so badly against an aggrieved third party that there's an additional penalty being charged against you by the courts, the Marsh policy will pay that, the Cowan policy will not. Now, you'd only know that by going through these scores and scores and scores of pages of policy wordings. That, I think, has some value to it. Here's another example. If there was ever an allegation against you for medical malpractice, the policy for Cowan's is broader in that case. However, how are you ever going to have a medical malpractice claim? You don't have any medical professionals employed. You could, if one of you, for example, were to administer first aid or CPR and somebody made an allegation against you for that, both policies give you that coverage. But the Cowan policy is broader in that it covers professionals who are medical professionals. It's of no value to you at this point because you don't have any medical professionals on staff. So we've had to go through, Glenn and Mary and I went through a fairly tedious exercise. I think I probably aged both of them about 10 years. We went through this tedious exercise of taking a look at differences in coverage so that they could understand what the difference in coverage was, and then determine, is this difference in coverage of any value? Because it doesn't matter if it's an enhancement if it's of no value to Puslinch. So that's the process that we've gone through. But again, we've gone through very, very carefully, and I'm confident that we are comparing apples with apples.
Great. Well, thank you very much for all your work.
Thank you. Councillor Ballmer?
No questions, thank you.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so thank you very much. That's fantastic news for the taxpayer and the township. And you know, back when Councillor Godey and myself and basically this council was new, and we saw the price that we were paying for insurance, we were just floored. So we were quite nervous that, you know, that was going to be the status quo. And I truly appreciate all the work you and the CAO and Mary put into this and going through it to ensure that it was apples to apples. And we ended up with a little bit extra coverage. So that's job well done. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. We are going through right now, Glenn and Mary and I are going through just some of those issues, those post-analysis issues, because there are some issues that we need to still nail down based on your accepting our recommendation. And we are in the process of doing that today and in the next few days, because the coverage needs to all be placed before May the 1st.
Okay, so you'll be busy.
We can do it.
We appreciate it for sure.
Thank
Ms.
you.
White, you're welcome. Ms. White Fox, do you have a motion to be read for this one?
Yes, so if we can just get a mover and a seconder for it, and then I will read.
Do you want to read it
Oh,
first?
sorry, sure. That report, FIN 2020-016, request for proposal number 2020-001, municipal insurance coverage and services be received, and that council authorize awarding the municipal insurance coverage and services contract to Marsh Canada Limited, Jardine Lloyd Thompson Canada Incorporated, Public Sector Division, as outlined in the 2020 Municipal Insurance Program proposal for the policy term May 1st, 2020 to May 1st, 2021, and with the option to renew for a period of 4 annual terms upon satisfactory performance and satisfactory renewal prices in accordance with request for proposal number 2020-001.
Okay, can I get a mover for that?
I'll move it.
Councillor Spools, seconder.
I'll second it.
Councillor Bailey. So I'll ask all in favor. Councillor Goyda,
In favor.
Councillor Spools,
In favor?
Councillor Bailey,
In favor?
Councillor Bulmer,
In favor.
and I'm in favor as well. Okay, that's passed. Ms. White Fox, do we have Ms. Ferris in the panel?
Yes,
She
I'll move
can-
her over.
Okay, thank you. So just for council's information, when there's people viewing from the public, Ms. White Fox has mentioned it takes approximately 10 seconds to move them into our portion of the meeting. That's why there's sometimes a little delay. Hi, Megan. Oh. There she is.
Hello,
Hi, Megan. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing well. Hey, nice to see your face. I believe there's been some changes to the deadline to this, but maybe you could speak to this official plan amendment and the change in the timelines. And the floor is yours.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to turn my video off because I do reside out in a rural area, just in case I start breaking up, and then I'll pop back on. So the county is moving forward with an official plan amendment to the official plan to install policies related to accessory residential units. And this is specifically related to a Planning Act change that occurred back in mid to late 2019. So the intent of these policies is to essentially allow more accessory residential units as per and as directed under the Planning Act changes. So the intent, so I guess I would say previously the county official plan policies allowed an accessory residential unit in a single family dwelling, a semi-detached dwelling, and a townhouse, or in an accessory dwelling, or sorry, an accessory building, accessory to a single family dwelling. The Planning Act changes now allow for an accessory unit in a dwelling, so the single family dwelling, the semi, or the townhouse, and in addition at the same time within an accessory structure of one of those 3 types of housing. So ultimately, the policy change allows for 3 residential units on the property. So ultimately, the county is looking to change within the official plan to allow all of those units, to clarify that in terms of the unit count, one of the units will be the main use, which is the main dwelling type. They're changing some terminology and making sure that the accessory unit can be within an accessory structure and a dwelling at the same time. So that's ultimately what kind of like an overview, what the changes are and what's being proposed. So the official plan amendment in front of you today and the request in front of you today is seeking your comments, your feedbacks, and your information and your perspective on this official plan amendment.
Okay, thank you, Megan. I'm just going to pause for a moment. I'm going to call a roll call. Looks like we've lost some video. So it appears we have 3 back, but Councillor Goyda, are you there? Oh, I'm starting to get some videos back. Councillor Spoulos, I can see you. You're there? Yep, you're moving.
I am.
Yeah. Councillor Bailey?
I am here, but I missed everything.
missed- I'll give a quick synopsis. And then Councillor Balmer?
Yes, I'm here and
Sorry.
heard it all.
Okay, and Councillor Goyda, are you back? We have quorum, so that's good. So, can you hear me? Jessica, nod your head if you can hear me. Anyways, we still have quorum, so I'll wait a second to see if Jessica comes back. Just says connecting the audio. So, there you are. Councillor Goyda, are you there?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm here. Sorry, I just got kicked out there.
That's okay. So I'm not gonna have Megan restate
Okay.
everything. Sorry, Megan.
Oh.
And the deadline, and you can confirm, Megan, the deadline has been pushed back. I spoke with Aldo yesterday. So we don't have, when did they want it? May 1st? Because they haven't been able to schedule the public meeting. So he said we have some time. So we don't necessarily need to provide our official comments today. I still wanted, we had Megan here to explain it, but essentially it's just going from, in circumstances where you could have 2 units going to 3, and then what our comments would be is it's intensification is what it is, and I believe it will be beneficial to our community as long as the services can be met, and that's although I was pretty confident there'd be a way to deal with that to ensure that not everybody can put it in because you can't have a large enough septic or a large enough well, but that's planners' job. They figure all that good stuff out. But we do have some time, so I think councillors, we should just have it on our radar and prepare some comments for it, and then we'll probably see it in the near future once this COVID-19 start. I'll let you chat. So, Megan.
So through you, the chair, just wanted to clarify. If you want, I can prepare a more detailed memo about the changes, and that can come back to council if you want, or something like that. I could do that because all of the information is essentially on a website that the county has as well, in terms of all the staff reports that have been prepared and kind of like a comparison of all the changes that are proposed. So I could provide a memo if you want me to.
I would like to see that. I'd like to see that, and that would give us an opportunity to to understand it a little more clearly, and then it might bring up some more questions. So,
okay.
And I don't think we have. So I will ask if anybody has any questions. I'll go in the roll call order. So, Councillor Goyda.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I did just have 2 quick, I think they're quick questions or comments about the changes. And I just want to preface this and say I think overall this proposed amendment is a positive change, especially for a rural community like ourselves that has little opportunity to provide additional affordable housing. That this addition of another residential unit is one way to do that, and so I think that is a positive change. There's just the 2 quick things which under item, I guess it's 4.4.6, the letter H, it says whether a garden suite and additional residential unit will not be permitted on the same lot. And I find that language very confusing. When I read that, I'm not sure if that's saying that a garden suite and additional residential unit is or is not permitted. And I think it's the use of the word whether, because it makes it seem like there's a choice. But I do know that word was in the previous as well as the new. So maybe I'm just reading it incorrectly, but I just think that the language of that particular point is somewhat confusing.
So through the chair, I can answer that. So the wording is the same in terms of the criteria that applied, and the wording is the same as what was previously or currently in the official plan. And the intent is that the county is providing through these policies an opportunity for townships to decide if they want a garden suite with these residential units. So it is intended to be optional. With garden suites, they are considered under a separate section of the Planning Act all completely, and they're not considered accessory residential units. So it will be up to townships if they want to be able to allow all of these accessory units plus a garden suite, and the biggest consideration will be the servicing requirements for all of those uses on a property in terms of the septic system and capabilities. And also if one or if a township wants to have that many uses from a compatibility perspective all on one property.
Okay, that helps a lot. That clarifies my question. Thank you. The second question is as it relates to section 4.4.6.2, which if I am understanding this correctly, a property can have a total of 2 additional residential units in addition to the primary dwelling, but only one of those can be in an ancillary building. And if that is correct, I'm just curious as to what the rationale is in allowing, for instance, a home with a basement apartment as well as a granny suite over a detached garage, but not a primary dwelling with no additional residential units inside, but 2 granny suites over a detached garage. To me, it's achieving the same objective either way, but I'm just curious as to why one scenario would be permitted, but not the other.
Through the chair, I don't know if I can give an excellent response to that, but I can say within the Planning Act changes, that's how it is specified. So it's been specified that way by the provincial government, saying you can have 1 additional unit in your main structure and then 1 with the accessory in the accessory structure. So I'd be making a lot of assumptions as to why they went about that way, and maybe the intent is to make sure that you don't run into strange interpretations in terms of triplexes or something like that. But I don't have a great response, but I guess I could say is it's something that's kind of been vetted and determined by we're just essentially complying with it.
Okay, we lost you at the end there a little bit, Megan, but I believe you answered it pretty much well enough. But are you satisfied, Councillor Guida?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Spools?
Okay, that's good. It's a white screen now. Yeah, all I see is this reflecting what's in Schedule 12 of Bill 108, and all you're doing is changing the wording. Is that correct?
Through the chair, for the most part, that is correct. We're just aligning the official plan with the new Planning Act changes.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Bailey?
I'll just stop my video here. Hi, Megan. Thanks for being here today. I did have, you sort of confirmed my first question. So it's just, we're just trying to increase the number of units available for housing. So in section, I don't have the whole document in front of me, but section 4.4.6.2, the wording starts out with 1, and it's going to change to 1 additional unit. And so if we're trying to increase the number of units, I'm not sure where the word 1 is fitting in. You see where I mean?
Maybe, Jessica, you could just, when you have the, or sorry, not Jessica, Sarah, you could even email Megan the exact point, and she'll be able to find it offline and then come back in that report. Or
Sure. I just didn't want it limiting what we're trying to not limit.
yeah, well, and we're gonna have, like, Megan's gonna provide another report back to council. So this was just, you know, a heads up. It's gonna change. So,
yeah,
you know, these questions, bounce them off Megan, and if something else comes up, and then she can include that in the report. I'd like to see that as well.
Okay, I do have one other question.
Sure.
Megan, sorry. Nowhere was I reading anything in relation to entrances.
Sorry?
We lost the last party because your video was on.
Nowhere am I reading anything in terms of entrances with regards to the additional units. Is there a link there or a limit there?
So Megan,
So-
sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Sorry, through the chair. I believe it's under, so I would point to section 4.4.6.1B. The establishment of an additional residential unit does not require the creation of an additional driveway access. So I think that question would kind of be addressed there, where there's the way the policies in the official plan is written, it's trying to ensure that you can include these uses, but make sure that they kind of function together and they don't kind of create this, I don't know, kind of like this incompatibility in terms of the multiple entrance points onto either county or local roads. So I would say that is essentially addressed, I believe, in that specific section of the county's official plan policies.
Okay,
Does that-
I was,
does that help?
yeah, I was thinking more in terms of physical doors, like if you have, do they all need to come through a same door, or do you have to have separate entrances in the building for each unit?
So through the chair, that's actually, no, I get that now. That's a good point. And there might be something in terms of looking at section D in terms of the exterior alterations and or a requirement under the Ontario Building Code more so than something that the policies or even the zoning needs to address. So it probably could be captured that way, but I can look at it a little bit more thoroughly and see if there's a better response.
Thank you. Councillor Ballmer?
No additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Megan. Appreciate you joining today. I don't expect you to stick around.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to go back to the agenda, and I just got to do. I can see Sarah and Councillor Spoulos or Jessica. I don't know why I keep calling it on me. There we go. Sarah's back. Councillor Ballmer, are you there? Might have lost Councillor Ballmer. So anyways, we don't have any closed items.
No,
so
I'm
then we're
still
gonna-
here.
Okay, good. Ms. Whitefox, do you want to read out the adoption and receipt of minutes of the previous meeting? And I'll get a mover and seconder, please.
That the minutes of the following meetings be adopted as written and distributed. So A, January 22nd, 2020, regular council meeting. B, March 4th, 2020, regular council meeting. C, April 8th, 2020, special council meeting. And D, April 8th, 2020, electronic participation council meeting.
Okay. Can I get a mover for that, please?
I'll move.
Councillor Ballmer, seconder. Councillor Spoulos. All right, all in favor? Councillor Goida.
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos.
In favor?
Councillor Bailey.
In favor?
Councillor Ballmer.
In favor.
And I'm in favor as well. Thank you. Do we have any business arising out of the minutes from anyone? Just raise your hand if you have something. Everybody on video so far. Okay. Public meetings, we have none. We did communications. All right, we'll move on to IG. Just got to bear with me when I try to pull these up. Okay, so I'm working from two computers, so you just have to bear with me. It's the first, the Grey Highlands support for ministers allow electronic delegations. Any questions or comments on that one? Just raise your hand if you have anything you want to say. No. Motions for support. Corporation of Municipalities Center Hastings. Any questions or comments? Not seeing any. Letter from the Minister of Energy, Northern Development and Mines. Anything? Councillor Spoulos, you have something? No? Yep, Councillor Spoulos.
I think you're skipping a whole bunch of them. Under motions to support, there's 10 items there.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, sorry. I'm working from another computer. Didn't open up. All right. Here we go. Thank you. All right, so we'll go back to motions for support. And we have the Center Hastings motions for support for the role of conservation. Yeah, Councillor Spoulos.
Yes, I have a motion with respect to items B1, B2, B3 with respect to supporting our conservation authorities.
Okay, want to read it?
Might get lost in the garble, but whereas the township of Portsmouth is committed to planning for a sustainable future for its resources and environment, and whereas township of Portsmouth is a member of the Grand River Conservation Authority, GRCA, Conservation Halton, CH, and the Hamilton Conservation Authority, HCA, and whereas the GRCA, CH, and HCA provide the township of Portsmouth with expert advice on environmental impact of land use planning proposals, and that the township of Portsmouth does not have staff with comparable expertise or experience. And whereas the GRCA, CH, and HCA provide the township of Portsmouth with expert advice on environmental impact of planning proposals, provide programs to the residents of township of Portsmouth that include recreation, education, water quality, reduction of vegetation loss and soil erosion, preservation of species at risks, seek complete restoration projects as well as protect life and property.
Oh, I think we lost him. I think we lost you, John.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ballmer. All right, so first comments. Are you there, Councillor Spoulis? I think.
If I could, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, absolutely.
we received.
Oh, hold on, Councillor Spoulis. We thought you were finished. Are you still reading your motion?
I was.
Oh, you cut out on us.
Okay, I think you all have a copy of it.
Yeah.
So rather than me reading it, basically this is a carryover from when we supported the Halton Region Authority back a year ago, and we didn't include the other two conservation authorities. Council Boomer reminded us at the March meeting that asked us whether we had done so with all the conservation authorities. So this is a carryover with that, making sure that we do so.
Okay. Mr. Schwendinger.
We also received just this morning a slight suggested amendment to the resolution from Council Bulmer under the second whereas. He just wanted it reflected that municipalities have representation on these boards to indicate that we do have participation in that process. So I believe we just had a simple statement added that says and has representatives on each board of directors.
Are you comfortable with that, Councillor Spoulis?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Sorry, where were we? Had a mover was Councillor Bulmer, and no. Did we get our first and seconder, Ms. Whitefox? There was a lot of reading.
Yes, I have Councillor Sapoulis as the mover and Councillor Bulmer as the seconder.
All right, Councillor Goyda, any comments?
As
Yes.
amended.
As amended, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Well, might want to stop your video if you're going to talk a lot, because it'll.
I won't talk too much. I just wanted to see if it would be possible to add to the resolution, and this is coming from the resolution from the municipality of Center Hastings, to add, and whereas conservation authorities will be important partners in concrete and cost-effective initiatives to address climate change. I think that's an additional role that's important by the conservation, that it doesn't specifically speak to that in the resolution as is. So I'm wondering if it's possible to add that, if Councillor Sapoulis is comfortable with it.
Yes, I am. Thank you. That's a good idea.
Okay. All right. So Councillor Bailey?
No questions. I fully support this. I think it's a good motion.
Okay. Councillor Bulmer, you seconded it, but. your comment?
Yes, and I support the additional amendment by Councillor Goyda, and these are important services they provide. They help educate the youth and the adults that the people in the environment do not exist in a separate world. We are all.
No, we lost you. Oh, We just lost the tail end of your comments, but I think we got the majority of it, Councillor Palmer. Okay, all in favor? I'll call them in order. Councillor Goida.
In favor.
Okay, Councillor Spillis.
Favor?
Councillor Bailey.
Yes, in favor.
Okay, Councillor Palmer.
In favor?
And I'm in favor. Okay, so we're on 1B4. Chatham-Kent sport ban of single-use disposables. I don't have any video from Councillor Bulmer, so just chime in, Councillor Bulmer, if you have some comments on any of these. Gray motion for support of Canadian wines excise. I'm not seeing any. Nipissing West motion for support designation of wetlands. Nothing. Town of Grand Valley motion for support of Bill 156 security. Not seeing any. Township. Wow, Tyaned, I can't even pronounce that. I'm not even gonna butcher it. Coastal Gas Link motion. No. Town of Grimsby motion for support for electricity billing relief during anything there. Okay.
Mayor, with respect to that, I was wondering if you had a discussion with the other mayors on a letter of support for the Premier.
I did have some conversations, and with our CAO, I think we, you know, as long as it's the municipality, you know, being directed to write the letter and then we're signing it, I think that's quite reasonable request. So I don't know if you want to bring that up now or you can make a motion.
Sure, I like both 9 and 10 motions respect the work that the Premier has done with respect to the electrical work, electrical billings. And I'd like to suggest that we approve a motion to asking the mayor to send a letter to the Premier thanking him for all his work associated with the COVID virus, especially relieving the pressure on the residents of Puslinch with respect to financial matters and his leadership on taking us through this COVID crisis.
One thing I'll say, Councillor Spillis, is I don't believe we need to have a motion. I'll maybe lean towards our CAO, but if council is just in favor of you know, the municipality penning the letter and I'll sign it, thanking the Premier for his incredible work during the COVID-19. I don't believe we need a motion. What are your thoughts, Mr. Schwendinger?
That's correct. I don't think we need a formal motion. If we just have the general consensus of council on this topic to send a thank you letter, then that's fine.
Okay. I'm not hearing any objections from Councillor Bulmer, so that's good. Well,
not through it yet, but we're part way through at least.
Yes, true. So 9:10. Now we're in C, letter from the Ministry of Energy Northern Development Mines. We kind of talked about that, but we backtracked. So D, Ontario strengthening protections for tenants and landlords. Councillor Spillis, I've lost your video. So I don't know if you're there. We still have Councillor Goida and Councillor Bailey. Yep, there we go. Okay, anything on the tenants and landlords? No. Roma, thank you letter from Minister John Yakubuski. And rural Ontario community call for expression of interest in CENGN rural. Anything there?
Okay. Excuse me, Mayor.
Are we missing more again?
Excuse me, Mayor Seeley.
Yep, go ahead.
With respect to letter of Ministry of Energy, Northern Development and Mines, this is a natural gas item. I was wondering if we can get the CEO to update us where we stand on our application for natural gas.
Sure, be happy to. Been working closely with a natural gas provider that's already in Puslinch, Enbridge, and what we are doing is compiling the information as to exactly where gas services are currently located in Puslinch to determine what areas could still be eligible to receive some service, so that we could focus a application that they would make to try and secure some of this funding, specifically identifying those locations. And then what our contribution to that would be at this point is a letter of support supporting their application to secure the funding. So we're hoping to have something to council, I'm guessing at the next meeting, indicating a letter of support or requesting a letter of support from council for their application.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schwindner. Any further comments or questions on those IG items before we have Ms. White Fox read out the motion? Okay. Ms. White Fox, if you wouldn't mind reading them. Oh, there you go.
That the intergovernmental affairs correspondence items listed on the council agenda for April 22nd, 2020 council meeting be received.
I need a mover for that, please.
Move it.
Councillor Spillis, seconder.
I'll second.
Councillor Goida. Okay, all in favor. Councillor Goida.
In favor.
Councillor Spillis.
In favor.
Councillor Bailey.
In favor?
Councillor Bulmer.
In favor.
I'm in favor as well. Excellent. Okay. Delegations, we have none. Reports. We have the Plissich Fire and Rescue Services report. It's on my agenda here. It denotes that we have a motion. I don't believe. Do we have the fire chief here to answer any questions or be available?
He's not able to be at this meeting today.
Okay, that's fine. So, Ms. White Fox, is there a motion for that one?
The first one that I have is for the finance report for the temporary borrowing bylaw.
Okay, sorry. Well, I have the little indicator beside reports. It's just probably carryover from a previous agenda. That's fine. So sorry. So then there is nothing from Plissich Fire and Rescue. And then so we'll hand it over to Director of Finance, Mary Hassan. Does she want to talk about that temporary borrowing bylaw, please?
Sure. So just to summarize, we do this bylaw on an annual basis. This year, it is financially prudent to do it this year, especially in case we do have to borrow due to the current COVID-19 circumstances. The amount that we would be borrowing would not be the full 1.5 million. It would be what the township requires. So I have had discussions with our bank, and they've indicated that so we haven't borrowed in the past. So just the temporary borrowing we have up to 1.5 million, and we could draw upon it as we need funds, should it be required. That's a quick summary, and if anyone has any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Sure, thank you. So essentially, we've retained a line of credit that we can use at our disposal as we need.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Councillor Goida.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Spillis.
I have no questions either. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Bailey. You can just shake your head no.
There we go. No, I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bulmer.
No, I have no questions, and I can remember back when they started doing this during the Common Sense Revolution, because of the chaos created back then, the changes to the tax system. The township wasn't sure if we'd be able to. It was before I was on council, but I can remember sitting in the audience, and it was a way to make sure we could make our payments to the county as the uncertainty rolled through. So it's certainly been going on for quite a while.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So, Ms. White Fox, you want to read that motion?
That report FIN 2020-015 regarding the 2020 temporary borrowing bylaw be received, and that council enact a bylaw authorizing external temporary borrowings of $1,500,000 in 2020.
Okay, I can move it for that.
I can move it.
Oh, you can second it. Councillor Goida. Okay, and all in favor? Councillor Goida.
In favor.
Councillor Spillis.
Favor.
Councillor Bailey.
In favor?
Councillor Bulmer.
In favor.
And I'm in favor. That's carried. Okay, so we're on to the administrative department. Mr. CAO, did you just want to discuss about this property standards bylaw? I believe it's being deferred.
Yes, our recommendation to council is to defer it. We've received a few additional questions and comments on the draft bylaw as presented. And this morning we also received some documentation from the Federation of Agriculture indicating that they have they'd like to make some comments as well, but they would like some more time to go through the document. So we're going to address the comments that we've received already, create a new draft, and then we will circulate that to the Federation so that they have the most current copy to take a look at. And then that's what will come back to council with any additional comments we receive at that time.
Okay, perfect. So do we have a motion to defer? Do we need a motion to defer, or is it just,
I do have one, yes.
okay?
That report ADM 2020-006, proposed property standards bylaw, final draft be referred to a future council meeting for consideration.
Okay, can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Balmer, I'm gonna get you to move it. Can you move it, Balmer? We haven't had you move many because you don't have much video on.
Yes, I would gladly move that one, since I received the phone call from the Federation of Agriculture, and they explained their very reasonable concerns, and I think staff have it well in hand to address them.
Excellent. And the seconder, please.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Councillor Bailey. So we'll go all in favor. Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spillis,
In favor?
Councillor Bailey,
In favor?
Councillor Balmer,
In favor.
and I'm in favor as well. So that one's carried. Do you want to, Ms. White Fox, you want to read the next motion for that bylaw enforcement occurrence? That way, technically, we can get the mover and seconder and have discussions on it.
That report ADM 2020-007, bylaw enforcement occurrence first quarter update be received for information.
Can I get a mover for that? Councillor Spillis, seconder. Councillor Bailey. Okay. Oh, Mr. CEO, you have some comments?
This is just a report that we're bringing forward to council for your general information, just to see what the efforts are of our bylaw enforcement staff, to see the types of issues that they're dealing with. Obviously, we have to be careful with the information that's disclosed. We don't disclose any private confidential information, but just so you see the general nature of the issues that we're dealing with.
That's great. Any comments, Councillor Goida?
No, I have no questions. Thank you. I like this report though, so thank you for putting it together.
Councillor Spillis,
I'm good, thank you very much.
Councillor Bailey,
No questions at this time.
Councillor Balmer.
I agree with Councillor Goida. It's helpful to see the work that staff are doing on these items. Fortunately, they're not coming to my house, but it's nice to know that they are out there if people feel they need them.
I agree. I thought it was excellent to see what type of reports they're receiving and what's out there in the community. And again, we kept the information private, so that's excellent. Blair's doing a great job. So, all in favor, Councillor Goida.
In favor.
Perfect. Councillor Spillis,
In favor?
Councillor Bailey,
In favor?
Councillor Balmer,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. And then we have the report ADM 2020. I'm going to change up a little bit here, Ms. White Fox. 008 revised council and committee meeting schedule. Any questions or comments on that? Just raise your hand.
I have just one quick question. I am wondering if now that we're doing these electronic council meetings, and I believe, I'm not sure, but I think the public is able to watch this live through the link that's posted on the top of our agenda. And I'm just wondering if that link can be posted somewhere on our website as well, to just make it a little bit more readily accessible, because I'm not sure that everyone would think to click on the actual agenda to find the link to see the council meeting.
Mr. CEO.
Sure, that's something we're still refining the process as we go. It's kind of a work in progress. We definitely will take a look at any opportunity we can to circulate that to make it as easily accessible for everybody as possible.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Spillis.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Bailey. Nothing. Councillor Balmer.
All good.
Okay.
Could I maybe ask a question? Right now, the report suggests for the next month that you want to look at June as well. Maybe you wanted to talk about that, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to bring up, to see if there is an appetite from council just to extend it a little further, because unless you want to see this monthly, and I mean, essentially we're going back to the regularly scheduled day for council meeting. It's just being bumped to 2 o'clock for trying to be on a time where internet usage is a little bit less. So I'm easy either way, whether we just address it each month or if you want to go 2 months out. That way we don't have to have this 5-minute conversation. So, Mr. Cielo, you have
Given the indications of timing that we're hearing through the province and the feds and what other municipalities are doing, just to respect your time, so we don't have to keep bringing the report back, maybe it would be better to do June at the same time, but open to your suggestions.
I'm comfortable with that. Let's just see if, let's push it to June. Is there any Councillor Goyda, do you have any objections to that?
Nope.
Okay, Councillor Spoulos?
I'm fine pushing it to June.
Okay, Councillor Bailey?
I'm fine as well. We'll be here.
Councillor Bulmer?
Makes sense.
Okay, good stuff. Okay, so now we need, do we have our mover and seconder? Yes, we do. So we're going to vote all in favor. Ms. White Fox, did we get our mover and seconder for that one? It's a lot of me asking everybody for voting.
Not quite yet, and I just
Okay.
amended it to, I've just amended the motion just to say until the end of June.
Okay, you
so I
want to
can-
read it out? Yeah,
Okay.
read the whole thing out as amended, and then I'll give a mover and seconder.
That report ADM 2020-008 amended 2020 council meeting schedule be received, and that the Township of Puslinch Council approve the amended 2020 council meeting schedule until the end of June 2020.
Okay, mover for that one.
I'll move it.
Councillor Goyda,
I'll second it.
Councillor Bulmer, all in favor. Councillor Goyda,
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos,
In favor?
Councillor Bailey,
In favor?
Councillor Bulmer,
In favor.
and I'm in favor as well. Okay, now on to the report ADM 2020-009 Cogeco funding application. Any questions? Councillor Goyda.
I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you to Councillor Sapoulis and to the committee for their hard work on this, and hopefully this helps a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Councillor Spoulos.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Bailey.
No questions.
Okay, Councillor Bulmer.
I'd like to echo Councillor Goyda's comments in that this is one of the opportunities when a member of council and their committee has a chance to, show some outcome for their efforts, and it's great for the citizens that are involved in that as well. So good work, and I'm glad to see we've got at least the first project off, potentially off the ground.
Excellent. Okay, so all in favor, Councillor Goyda?
I think we still need a mover and seconder.
Oh, sorry. I need a mover. I thought we had a mover in second. Mover.
I'll move it.
Yeah. Seconder.
I'll second
Councillor Goyda, all in favor? Councillor Goyda?
it. In favor.
All right, Councillor Spoulos?
In favor?
In favor. Councillor Bailey?
In favor?
And Councillor Bulmer?
In favor.
And I'm in favor. Just a little off topic, Councillor Spoulos. I saw Aecon working down in Morriston, and they're installing fiber, and they're going right through the village of Morriston, and they're connecting that new Stewart's Landing phase, subdivision, exclusively to fiber. Is there any opportunity through the committee to reach out to these internet providers that, they would expand that fiber in these where it already is?
I can certainly alert our committee members to see if we can look at that. I don't know who, Aecon is typically a construction firm, and I don't know who they're working on behalf. It could be Bell or it could be Rogers. I suspect it's Bell, being in your area.
I just found it interesting because they're bypassing a whole bunch of existing residents and plumbing into, and it wouldn't be me, not my house, but there's other individuals. So anyways, okay.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating as well because we have a Rogers fiber cable running along 34. I didn't know that, but they're not connecting to anybody. They're just running the cable.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So on to our last report. So it's report ADM 2020-010 corporate work plan. This was developed by our new CAO. Questions, Councillor Goyda.
I really like this work plan. It's quite actually impressive to see. I mean, we always know that there's a lot of work taking place, but when you see it itemized on a
Matt, turn your video off, Councillor Goyda.
like this, it sure puts things in perspective. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
No problem. Oh, there you're back. Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Did you hear what I already said?
heard probably the first 30 seconds or 5-10 seconds.
Okay, well, I really like this plan because it really shows in detail what everybody is working on, and it puts it in perspective, you know, how much work is actually still taking place. I think it's great that, I mean, although you just finished this plan, that you've already had to amend it to adjust for the situation at hand. I did have one question. Item 69 on this list talks about the Kerr Crescent Storm Pond Rehab, and that is looking to be postponed to 2021. And I'm just questioning if that has any, if there's any risk in doing that in terms of flooding or anything like that.
We had that exact discussion with our consulting firm, and they assured us that no, there isn't any risk associated with doing that.
Okay, that's great. And then I'm just wondering if this report is something, I know it's a living document and will probably change as time goes on, but is this something that we maybe would see at maybe a quarterly basis in our council packages?
That's a schedule that council would, you know, we're open to suggestions, what you want to see. We're going to be reviewing this on a regular basis at the department head level. And then typically what would happen is we could come for a mid-year update and then a year-end summary, or if you wanted to see it quarterly as well, that's completely fine as well. It's how often you want to see the document, basically.
I would be happy with twice a year. That would be fine with me. I suspect that as we go along with this pandemic, and eventually things will start to reopen and people will start to go back to work, and that might cause its whole own sequence of additional resources and work needing to be done in order to do that safely. So I don't want to add extra work by having you to have to present this more times than necessary, but I do think it's helpful for us to just see where things are at and where things are going.
For sure.
Okay, Councillor Spillis.
Yes, Mr. CAO, with respect to this document, when do you plan to issue it at the beginning of the year, right after the budget?
That's correct. Once the final budget is approved, very shortly after that, then once all the department heads will go through what was approved in their budgets, establish this, and then we would issue it as close as we can to the beginning of the year, yes.
Okay. I'm fine either way, once a year type of thing. I know things change. I really don't have a concern. To me, it's a staff document. It's something for us to look at, and if there's any change to the budget of any item, I'm sure you'll get back to us. So I'm easy either way.
Okay, Councillor Bailey.
There you go. Sorry. I guess just a general question to Glenn. First of all, I really like this document as well. It really spells out exactly what's being worked on, and it really showcases how much work is going on behind the scenes and how long things take. And I think it's a great visual. And I know, Glenn, you've done sort of this type of spreadsheet before. Is like 83 projects, it seems like a lot on the go right now. Is that sort of a standard, or is there a goal of how many you'd rather see on this document?
It's going to depend on year to year. Some years we'll have more than that, some will have less. It's every year we're actually usually surprised how many projects end up on here just because of legislation that comes through, or projects that are initiated through the budget process or through the community. So it varies. You know, some, just because there might be 80 projects listed on here, some of them might be a project that takes the whole year in multiple departments, or some might be one simple report that's reported once a year as a summary type of thing that doesn't take, you know, 12 months to work on either. So no, I think this is fairly consistent with what we would expect.
Okay, great. Well done.
Thank you.
Councillor Bowman.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for their support. I tend to agree somewhat with Councillor Sapoulis on, I see this as largely as a staff document. As interested as I am as a member of council, I want to make sure it doesn't start to be used by members of council or future members of council to start directing staff's activities. So I don't mind sharing it semi-annually as long as we recognize and the public recognizes it's this is for the CAO to help the CAO guide staff, not for us to guide when things get done.
Sure. Our intent and the real purpose for you is not that for, like you said, for council members to get involved in the operations, but just so that you know, once a project is approved in the budget, so that you know roughly in the year when you might be seeing it take place out in the community. Because sometimes
And
someone
I
might
agree
think,
that
"Oh, it was approved. Oh, you're gonna see the work done in March already." Well, it might be the plan is in the fall, just so that you know roughly when it's going to be taking place if you're asked in the community.
and I agree that's also where the public would benefit from seeing something like this, so they know what we approve in the budget. They can see when they can maybe see some results from that. I just, as long as we know what it's for, and I like it.
Great.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a great report as well. And yeah, I would leave it with you, Mr. Schwendinger. Whether we see it twice a year, once a year, I'll leave it to your discretion. I have the same concerns, Councillor Balmer. I don't want to see it as a tool for us to meddle in the operations, but it's nice to see what's planned. And, you know, like you said, it's an answer we can give to the public to say, oh, it's going to be commencing in November or whatever it may be. So that's excellent. So thank you for that. Can I get a, actually, Ms. Whitefox, do you want to read the motion, please?
That report ADM 2020-010 regarding the draft 2020 corporate work plan be received, and that the Township of Puss Lynch Council directs staff to proceed with finalizing the document as presented as amended and report back to council.
Perfect. Can I get a mover for that, please?
I'll move.
Good job, Councillor Bowman. Councillor Swills seconds it. Okay, all in favor? Councillor Goyda?
In favor.
Oh, I lost you. I didn't quite hear you. Are you in favor? Councillor Goyda? Can you hear me? Are you not hearing me? Councillor Goyda, can you say if you're in favor?
In favor, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Swills?
In favor?
Okay, Councillor Bailey?
In favor?
Okay, Councillor Bowman?
In favor.
I'm in favor as well. Thank you. Okay, so planning, we have none. We have the Rosen Parks Report PW 2020. Transfer road allowance between Victoria and Watson Road. Mr. CAO, do you want to give a little synopsis on that? Do we need it? Pretty straightforward, transferring ownership of a right of way
Sure,
to
yeah.
us.
This is just as a result of another issue that we're dealing with. It became apparent that years ago the transfer didn't take place properly. So this is just putting the ownership properly where it should be with the municipality, so that whatever council decides in the future can be done.
Okay, perfect. All right, so any questions, Councillor Goyda?
No questions.
Councillor Spose?
I'm fine, thank you.
Councillor Bailey?
No questions.
Councillor Ballmer?
No questions.
Okay, and Ms. Whitefox, would you be able to read that motion, please?
That report PW 2020-003 regarding the proposed transfer of the road allowance located between Victoria Road South and Watson Road South from the County of Wellington to the Township of Puss Lynch be received, and that council pass a bylaw to authorize execution of the agreement of purchase and sale and transfer of the road allowance by the mayor and clerk for nominal consideration.
Okay, can I get a mover?
I'll move.
Councillor Goyda. Seconder, Councillor Spose? Okay, yep, all in favor, Councillor Goyda?
In favor.
Councillor Spose?
In favor?
Councillor Bailey?
In favor?
Councillor Ballmer?
In favor.
I'm in favor as well. So that passes. The next one is the Recreation Department. We have the Rec 2020-004 Puss Lynch Tennis Club cost sharing agreement. The agreement's there. Everybody's had a chance to read it, so I'll just open up the questions. So, Councillor Goyda.
If I could just
Oh, sorry,
interrupt, sorry.
Absolutely.
We did receive a few questions last night, so staff went through and we did find that there was a couple of discrepancies between the report and the schedule. So just want to identify, because what was noted, and I'm glad someone caught this, the hours of whose time is what, it was slightly different in what was presented in the report as what was on the agreement. So Schedule C has been amended to properly reflect what was referenced in the report. So thanks for that. And then the last edit that was made, and this was a good point as well, in Schedule C, it also identifies that there's at some point in the future, there's going to need to be some repairs done based on our asset management plan. And in the event that repairs are needed earlier, if something happens, a phrase is being added to the document that basically says that in the event of required maintenance, repairs, or replacement of any part of the permitted lands, the township may have to restrict access to the club or public at its discretion. So basically, if something breaks and we have to fix it, you're not going to have your time available. That's basically what that clause is added.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay, perfect. Any questions, Councillor Goyda?
No, I am happy with the changes, and thank you for doing that so quickly. I apologize for sending that at 11:30 p.m. the night before a council meeting, but thank you for addressing those so quickly. I think that it makes for a more cohesive document. And I just wanted to ask about circulating this. I don't think it should delay anything, but I would just like to see this circulated to the rec committee if and when they should meet again, just out of respect to allow them to see this document as well.
All right, Councillor Spillis.
Yeah, I noticed the cost in the future. Presumably, staff will be applying for grants as well to help to defer the cost to the residents who use it and who don't use it.
Absolutely. As the time approaches when the work is scheduled, the standard process for our staff is to look at whatever funding opportunities would be available through whatever agencies or government programs, service groups, corporations, all that kind of stuff. We look across the whole gamut, and staff will definitely be taking a look at that when these projects are going to be coming forward as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Bailey.
I just had a question about whether we're tracking how many are actually using the courts. I know we know how many have purchased memberships, but are we tracking at all the usage?
My understanding is no, but perhaps Courtney could fill in if there's any additional information there. But my understanding is no. It's basically been operated by the tennis club to this point.
Okay, and then I just had another clarification. So I noticed if you're a member, you're allowed to use the courts on certain times. And if you're not a member, the public can just use it in other times. I'm not clear how that works for.
Yes, that's the intent of this document, because to this point, what it's been, the facility's been basically isolated for the exclusive use of the tennis club. And there's been some requests from members of the public who aren't members of the club to be able to access the facility as well. So basically what this is doing is separating two groups of time, and one time would be for the members of the club and other time would be for general members of the public.
Okay, that's great. And I think this was just mentioned in the amendment, but I don't have that in front of me. I did notice for future costs, we had something coming up in 2026 because of the rec master plan, and then something planned for 2028 because of the asset fencing. So is that what's being lined up?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Great, thanks very much.
Councillor Balmer.
Thank you. Yeah, I think for years this has operated fairly successfully. Again, this was a gift to the municipality from the Optimist Club, although their name's not on it. It was built with the expertise of the club, and in fact, the lighting came from the QEW when members of the club became aware that lights were being replaced in the Queen Elizabeth Way. The arrangements were made for the lights that were being taken down off the highway to be trucked to Aberfoyle to be installed here for the tennis club. So it was a real collaborative effort all the way around. And for years, the tennis club applied for grants and paid all the costs to maintain it. So if, I guess in my mind, if the club, the tennis club, who've put so many of their own hours and money into maintaining it to date, if they're comfortable with this agreement, then I support it as well.
Okay. Mr. CEO, do you want to discuss any correspondence we've had with the tennis club?
I know as we staff were working through this, preparing the draft agreement, that copies were forwarded to our contact with the tennis club, and we haven't had a lot of response from them with regards to comments on the agreement or moving forward on this. So kind of what we wanted to do prior to the whole pandemic thing starting was we wanted to do our best to see that there was something in place for the start of this season. So I know that that's kind of in question right now, but it's still appropriate to proceed with an agreement. So what we'll do is if council does endorse the agreement here today, we would forward it to them to say that this is what has been endorsed by council, and we'd request their review and concurrence with the agreement if they are in agreement with it.
Thank you. That's good. So that's not that we're signing it today. This is the draft that we've agreed to send to the tennis club for their comment.
Correct. And then if they come back with a change, then it would have to be a change that would be approved by council, because this is what's gone through our best practices review on what other municipalities have for similar facilities. It's gone through our legal review for protection of the municipality, those types of things. So if they would come back with changes, we would have to look at what the proposed changes, what the impacts would be, if there's legal or insurance implications, financial implications, whatever. And then whatever their proposed changes would be, we'd bring them back to council for consideration with recommendations along with them.
Thank you very much.
The only concerns I have are the projected maintenance costs in the future, for which you already mentioned from other councillors. I think we're finding that some of these maintenance programs are significantly more expensive than what we originally budget for. Is there a way for our Director of Public Works to, without getting a huge amount of money, just making some phone calls and saying, how much would it cost to fence this tennis court? And I do know that we have 3 courts there, and the most westerly court is sinking, and they don't use it because I don't know if it's unplayable or just because it's just sunk a little bit. It's not conducive to tennis, a very competitive tennis game. I don't know, but the repaving that's scheduled for this court, I believe, will be more of a reconstruction versus a repaving just to fix that sinking portion. So is there a possibility we could get updated numbers on that? And then it says here that 50% of the cost of expenses relating to all repairs and maintenance of the permitted land. So if we have to go through a full reconstruction and the tennis club just says, no, we can't afford it, I just assume the township's going to be responsible for the full cost.
What we typically do when you look at the corporate asset plan is the projects that are further out in the work plan, we kind of have a good estimate as to what the costs entail, but by no means is it a detailed engineering analysis and design completed of this is exactly what it's going to cost. As we move closer to the project, as they're a few years out, and as we start preparing the budget documents, then what we will do is we'll look at things a little bit closer to see if there's any changes in market, changes in equipment, changes in products and services, whatever it might be, to come up with a more firm price as we get closer to it. And then that's what we use to go forward to budget, and that's what we would then be presenting to the committee. Because exactly, we don't want to say, oh, well, we think it's going to be approximately X, and then surprise, surprise, when you go and start doing the work, you find a bunch of unanticipated things or costs significantly changed, and the price goes way up higher than that. So as we come closer to the projected dates, some more staff time will be spent on refining those estimates to be as accurate as they can with the information that we've got.
Yeah, I'm just thinking more towards, Mary and our asset management plan, because the numbers we have here, I don't think they're reflective of what the true cost is going to be. So I understand, and once we get closer, then we'll have a closer lens on it, but
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of work that needs to go into that tennis court.
There is, and I'm sure council can appreciate too, with all of the projects that you see, like you said in our work plan here, there's 80 something projects, and
Mhm.
a lot of those are financial impacts ones. If you spread that out over the life cycle of our asset management plan, however many years it is, we can't do full engineering estimates and detailed exact designs for everything. It would just be too cumbersome and too much expense to do that. So we focus those efforts on the projects over the next few years.
Yeah, you guys are doing a great job. I just, you
Yeah.
know, it's just tough on us when we want to fix the tennis court and then all of a sudden it's a lot more money because the one corner is stinking,
Yep.
right?
For sure.
Just stinks. I want to keep the facilities that we have. Okay, so I'll need a mover. Well, I'll get Ms. White Fox to read that motion off, please.
That report, Rec 2020-004, regarding a license and cost sharing agreement between the Township of Puslinch and the Puslinch Tennis Club on a portion of the lands known as the Puslinch Community Center be received, and that council authorize entering into an agreement with the Puslinch Tennis Club for a period of 10 years.
Perfect. Can I get a mover, please?
I'll move it.
Okay. Councillor Spillis, seconder. Councillor Bailey. All
Yeah,
right.
sure, I'll second.
All in favor? Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spillis,
In favor?
Councillor Bailey. Yeah, that nod. I didn't hear you, Councillor Bailey. I think we just lost her. Councillor Balmer.
In favor.
Okay. Councillor Bailey, are you back?
Favor?
I hear you. I heard it. And I'm in favor too. I heard it.
Favor.
All right, that one's passed.
Yeah, I'm
Excellent. Mayor's updates. As you were aware, CAO and myself we had a scheduled meeting with the MTO yesterday. Unfortunately, that was postponed until I believe it's May 30th. It doesn't matter. It does matter, but it's
I believe it's the 29th.
29th of May. And but in the cancellation email, they said in respect to the 401 Highway 6 bypass meeting that was scheduled for yesterday, we need to postpone it. So they played a card. So, you know, I wasn't sure if they were wanting to meet about the Halton inspection station or the bypass, but you know, they're still moving forward and they still have 2 hours scheduled for that meeting with myself, CAO, Ted Arnett. So that's good news. We're still, I don't know if Mr. CAO has anything to add about that.
Sorry, nope, nothing to add, but yeah, it is positive news that they're identifying the topic and they are giving that much time. I do think that's a good sign.
As you know, Morrison Park Nursing Home was low on PPE, personal protective equipment, and Glenn and I were working on it along with other staff. I don't know how many staff he had on it, but you know, they were short on face shields and everything. And then Royal Canin, you saw the email, but Royal Canin donated 200 booties, 150 masks with shields on them, and just helped them through a very difficult time. And then Nestle made a drop off, I believe it was yesterday, of more protective equipment, gloves, and other things. So, and then maybe I might ask Mr. CAO just for the public's sake, so they know that, you know, we're helping these individuals. But his primary goal there was to get them in contact with the proper organizations for these supplies. And then I even asked on the mayor call this morning, just if there was confirmation that private nursing homes were going to have access to these supplies the province was promising. And the only caveat they put on it is that if their burn rate, which is what they're calling the amount of PPE they're going through, is higher than the average, I'm not sure how they gauge it, but if they deem it too high, then they may not supply the PPE. But then the health department, Dr. Mercer said there's a contact, and I wrote it down, hoping Mr. CEO wrote it down as well, that they can contact the health department and they will assist them to lower their burn rates when they're still you know, qualifying for these PPE gifts or donations from the province. There hasn't been any discussion on, you know, who's paying for what, but I don't think that's a concern with the province right now. We're just trying to protect the most vulnerable. So that was a great, you know, it was bad news that they were out of PPE, but in a matter of days, I might have a couple children walking in here in a second. In a matter of days, our corporate citizens just rallied together and helped support this small little nursing home on a back road. And, you know, there hasn't been, to my knowledge, a COVID outbreak there. So it was excellent. It was a lot of work by Glenn, as I'd already mentioned to you, but I just wanted everybody else, if anybody's watching, to hear that. And as for that,
If I could just add to that, it wasn't just myself by any means. There's definitely a team effort here, and I know our fire chief Louis, he was heavily involved with it too, and put us in contact with some potential suppliers, and he was able to help them out to get them through as well. So kudos to him. And as per the recommendation of one of our members of council, I haven't had an opportunity to do that yet, but I hope to get to that tomorrow. Is to send some thank you letters out to these companies who stepped up and helped out. We're going to send some letters to them on behalf of the municipality.
So that was great news. On the mayor talk this morning, there's some conversations about countywide garbage cleanup in maybe the fall. So that's good news. Sounds that primarily, just hang on a second, just watch something else, okay? Sorry about that. Mom's working today. Sorry, what was it? Garbage cleanup countywide. So that's great news. Seems to be the majority of the dumping issues, in their opinion, is in the southern part of the county, the ones that neighbor on urban municipalities that have their transfer stations closed as well. So DOS and county staff have been working with their neighboring counterparts. I'm not saying they're opening up transfer stations, but when they do, and they want to do it unanimously, because if, you know, we could ID, but they don't want to have one open and not the other. So they're all working together just to make sure that when time comes and it's safe to do so, that they'll open them all up together. And so there's conversations happening. That's good. I know it's a frustrating time for individuals to get the garbage bags. The information maybe isn't getting out to people. They say they go to Zehrs or Longo's or these other stores and they don't have the bags, but I know the one Zehrs doesn't stock the yellow bags in the same aisle as the regular garbage bags. They're in the first aisle down by the meat department hanging up. So you might go into the store looking for bags and they're not there, and you leave, you're just not in the right place in the store. So, you know, Glenn and staff and myself have really been working hard to try to educate people about the location of these bags in the stores. And there is still going to be times where they're sold out. The county can't monitor their stock. They try to deliver as much as possible to the need. So eventually people will have enough stock. You buy one package, you get 10 bags. That should get you through a few weeks at a time. Other than that, I don't really have anything.
If I could just add to that, I had some additional discussions with the county staff on that, and they indicated, yeah, they are checking regularly with their suppliers to make sure that they have enough inventory and stock in. And I think sometimes people are just going to the stores, not seeing them where they expect to see them, and assume that it's sold out. So if you do hear, and that's what we've been telling folks too, is if you do hear from someone said, I went to the store and they were sold out, or they couldn't find them, just have them ask at the store, where do you find them? Because different stores, unfortunately, are placing them in different locations in the store, and maybe it's just in a different spot, and they might have lots of them. So if people don't see them, ask, maybe they have them in a different spot.
And some stores have them as a behind-the-counter item.
Correct.
Right. So that's the difficulty. It's the biggest complaint I receive. So I feel for people. Difficult time, but we're working through it, and I believe that's all I have. So, you guys have any questions or? Oh, okay.
Just one comment, Mr. Mayor. Please send my gratitude back to the county on their home delivery system. I was able to make use of that for a resident or two that don't have internet and weren't comfortable online or couldn't get them from a store. It was very easy to order a set, and they were delivered within a day or two to the residents. So they were very happy. They were able, didn't skip a beat.
That's perfect. You know, it wouldn't even hurt. I will pass that on, but it wouldn't hurt if you just sent an email to DOS and Don at the county, because I do a lot of complaining to them. So it might be a nice email to receive from someone else, but I can do that for sure. Okay. Now on to committee minutes. Hey, oh, sorry, any notices of motion? No. All right. Okay, so now committee minutes. So we have the committee minutes. I'm just going to read them all off. And well, does anybody have any comments on the committee minutes? Councillor Palmer? I'm muting Councillor Palmer. So we have A, September 24th, 2019 Recreation Committee minutes. B, November 19th, 2019 Recreation Committee minutes. January 14th, 2020 Committee of Adjustment minutes. February 11th, 2020 Committee of Adjustment minutes. February 11th, 2020 Planning and Development Advisory Committee minutes. February 19th, 2020 Public Meeting minutes. Day rezoning. One last time around the computer. Anybody have any comments or on those? Councilor Palmer, I'll assume no. I can't see
No,
you.
no questions, no comments.
Yeah, okay. Municipal announcements. Anybody have anything?
Sorry, Mayor, I do have a resolution for those minutes.
Oh, I didn't see the answer. Okay, if you want to read the resolution.
Okay, that the minutes of the following meetings be adopted as written and distributed. So September 24th, Recreation Committee minutes, November 19th, Recreation Committee minutes, January 14th, Committee of Adjustment minutes, February 11th, Committee of Adjustment minutes, February 11th, Planning and Development Advisory Committee minutes, and February 19th, Public Meeting minutes, day rezoning.
All right.
I'll move.
Thank you, Councilor Palmer. Who wants to second it? Councilor
I'll
Bailey?
second.
Oh, Councilor Spoulos, you got his hand up first. Okay, all in favor, Councilor Goida?
In favor.
Okay, Councilor Spoulos,
In favor?
Councilor Bailey,
In favor?
Councilor Palmer,
In favor.
and I'm in favor as well. Okay. Any municipal announcements?
I have one.
Councilor Spoulos?
I think Councillor Goida had one before me.
You want to go?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, as part of the Internet Committee, we're also looking at other technologies. And that includes Elon Musk's Starlink program. What he's doing is shooting up some low Earth orbit satellites. And he plans to have coverage of southern Canada and northern US sometime in the next few months. I don't know how certain that is, but we are pursuing that. Our chair has contacted Member of Parliament Chong to get a reading from the CRTC whether or not they would allow internet provider from out of the country to provide service to us. So that's being asked of. At the same time, our MP Michael Chong mentioned that he asked during one of the Parliament sessions that Bell and Rogers reduce their internet rates. This is the cost for the internet rates, and Rogers did comply. This is specifically to the Rogers Rocket Hub. So if you look on the web, if you want to get the Rocket Hub, they do have a reduced rate as well on that. That's pretty well it on the update.
Can I respond to some of that, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely.
Just some interesting information, Councillor Spoulos. That's an interesting point about the Starlink and being a foreign-owned company. Right now, there's an American company looking to take over ExploreNet, who also owns the satellite system that many residents use in Canada. So there might be an interesting parallel there if ExploreNet becomes an American company.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, yes, ExploreNet has been bought out officially by Finance Holding Company in the States. I don't know what the implications are for continuing ExploreNet as a Canadian entity, but they have been bought out.
Councilor Goida, do you have a municipal announcement?
Just a quick update. I just wanted to make council aware as for Friends of Mill Creek, as with many other programs, unfortunately, the Mill Creek Ranger program has been canceled for 2020, given the situation at hand, and it was just felt that the risk was too high with the Rangers sharing vehicles and equipment and stuff like that. So the decision was made not to proceed with the program this year and hopefully go up again in 2021, but just wanted to make council aware.
Thank you for that, Councilor Goida. Yeah, that's the worst part of the COVID-19. I mean, I can sit at home, and try to work from home, but when these programs that affect the community and their volunteers and help the wildlife and nature, and has to be canceled. That's the part that bothers me the most. Anyways, hopefully next year we'll be back to more of a norm. Any unfinished business, any other municipal announcements from anyone? Councillor
I
Spillis,
do.
you have something? Oh, Councillor Bowman.
I just had one with respect to unfinished business, so I'll leave that. till
Yeah,
we get to that.
Councillor Bowman has something for municipal announcements.
Yeah, unfortunately, one of the other programs that won't be running this year is the township cleanup, and that is run by the Optimist Club in partnership with the township and the county and other local businesses. And I want to publicly thank the mayor for his continued support in trying to come up with alternative approaches to this, and the CAO support and looking at ways to come up with some way to make this thing fly in the light of the recommendations that keep coming up from the province. But I think when we saw the emergency measure of the province being extended well into May, it became quite clear that it was not going to be possible to comply with all of the health and safety requirements for staff and for volunteers and that the province has to make this happen. And so I'm going to be speaking with the club and putting up a posting on the club's website, because the township is getting questions. I've been contacting the volunteers and thanking them for their years of service and explaining the situation. I'm sorry I haven't contacted Councillor Sapoulis directly. I figured I'd see him today. He's been one of the members that has helped out before, and Councillor Goyda, of course, rode the trucks last time. But we're looking at possibly doing it in the fall, or as the mayor mentioned, there may be a county-wide one coming forward. So it's a shame, especially at a time when the transfer stations are closed and we're seeing additional dumping, which was the whole point of the township cleanup anyway, was to avoid having this burden land on municipal staff. But I will be encouraging residents to, consider investing $2 in a county bag and cleaning up along the roadside and putting what they can in the recycling bins. So thank you, Mr. Mayor and CAO, for your support as we wrestle to try and make this work.
You're welcome. It's a team effort. You're putting as much work or more work into it. We each have our little niche, and we know that everything we're doing individually is important on one aspect or another. The internet, I mean, it's so important. So that's why I enjoy doing this job. We have a great team here, and everybody's got their finger on a different pulse, but we work well together. So, any other municipal announcements before I go to Councillor Spillis for unfinished business?
Yes, with respect to unfinished business, we've all been getting the AMO newsletter that our deputy clerk has been sending out, and she had mentioned several emails ago that we can subscribe online. I have done so, and I've been getting the subscribed version as well as the version that she just forwards. I was wondering if we can just forego having her to send it all out to us, and if we're interested, she can forward us a link and we can subscribe as well.
I would support that. I've been getting doubles ever since she's been forwarded them as well, so I don't mind not getting doubles.
I would be supportive of it as well. I get triples. I get it from the county, I get it from the township, and I get it from Courtney. So do we, Mr. CEO? Yeah. Mr. CEO, do we need a resolution or a motion for that, or just staff direction?
No, we don't need a resolution. We'll just our deputy clerk, she'll just send out the instructions again, maybe as to where to go to on the AMO website to register for those updates, and you'll get them all automatically then.
Okay, perfect. Okay, now we have the bylaws. Ms. White Fox.
Okay, the following bylaws be taken as read 3 times and finally passed in open council. A, bylaw 2020-022 being a bylaw to authorize the temporary borrowing of funds to meet current expenditures of the Corporation of the Township of Puslinch during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020. B, bylaw 2020-023 being a bylaw to authorize execution of the agreement of purchase and sale and the transfer of the road allowance located between Victoria Road South and Watson Road South from the County of Wellington. And C, bylaw 2020-024 being a bylaw to authorize entering into a license and cost sharing agreement with the Puslinch Tennis Club for the use and maintenance of the tennis courts located at the Puslinch Community Center.
Okay, can we get a mover for that, please?
I'll move.
Councillor Goyda, seconder. Councillor Spillis. All right, all in favor? Councillor Goyda. If you have comments, say it now too. I don't want to go around a second time. Councillor Spillis.
In favor?
Yeah, Counselor Bailey,
In favor?
Counselor Ballmer,
In favor.
I'm in favor as well. That one's passed. Looks like we're at the confirming bylaw. Ms. White Fox?
That the following bylaw be taken as read 3 times and finally passed in open council. Bylaw 2020-025 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for the corporation of the Township of Puslynch at its meeting held on the 22nd day of April 2020.
For that.
I can move it.
Counselor Bailey? Oh, Mr. CEO, did you have something?
Nope.
No, okay. Counselor Bailey is a mover. I'll get a seconder. Counselor Spoulos, all in favor. Counselor Goida?
In favor.
Counselor Spoulos?
In favor?
Counselor Bailey?
In favor?
Counselor Ballmer?
In favor.
I'm in favor as well. And do we have a resolution for adjournment, or do I just call the time, Ms. White Fox?
I have a resolution.
Okay.
The council,
Can you just read that off and just choose the time that your computer says there?
the council hereby adjourns at 3:47 p.m.
All right. And
I'll
mover
move.
for that. Counselor Ballmer, seconder. Counselor Bailey, all in favor. Counselor Goida?
In favor.
Okay. Counselor Spoulos?
In favor?
Counselor Bailey?
In favor.
Counselor Ballmer?
In favor.
I am in favor as well. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Nice to see everyone.
Thank you.
It was nice to hear the rest of you.